said, what you always want to do, one of the biggest things when you do any science, is to make sure you have a sterile environment, okay? So what I always do, yeah, it looks clean. I always want to wipe exactly where I'm going to be doing my experiment off with ethanol. It kills the bacteria. You have some paper towels. I'll be back. Yeah. I'll get those. We'll continue to let you film, sir. And what we want to do, we spray the surface that we're going to work at 70% ethanol. I've already done this, but I'm really big on contamination. If you have contamination with your experiment is pretty much a failure, because the cells that you have, they're not going to be in a normal state because contamination causes stress to the cells, okay? So now that we've accomplished the sterile environment, which is an extremely important thing, we want to actually do that also. I'll be back with anything that we use. So what I always do, because we have to make sure it's handled correctly, the water bath. We have our medium warmed up in the water bath, but this is just for example. So anytime you take medium out of the refrigerator, whatever, just wipe, or the water bath, because you have to warm it up. You want to wipe around here. Actually, you want to wipe around the sides first. Wipe around here to make sure that you're decreasing your probability of contamination. This is what a lot of the contamination occurs under the lip of the top of the container. So wipe that down and use that trypsin. This is just for an example. Anytime you're unsure if you added your fetal bovine serum, which is an essential nutrient for cellular growth, and you don't know if you're sure that you added it, there's a little trick. You can shake it up. If you get suds, that means that the FBS is in there. If you don't have those suds, that means there's no FBS. So that's just a little cell culture trick that you can learn if you forget. But the best way to prevent that, and Abraham did a good job of labeling with a date, but you need to label it's this complete medium. You have 10% FBS or any antibiotics that are added to prevent contamination. That's a big thing. So you have to add your growth factors and your antibiotics that will prevent the contamination of your cells. Saying that, we move this over here. We don't need that. This stuff is actually contaminated. You can't really see, but there's particles at the bottom that are floating around. So anytime you want to test contamination, you always hold that media up to a light, and you can distinguish the air bubbles from actually things that are floating in the medium, because they'll fall to the bottom of the container. All right, so that's just a way to detect contamination. That's something you want to do every time that you remove your medium from the refrigerator or whatever environment that you have it in. All right, so we have that. Trypsin, I always do that too. I look at the trypsin, shake it to make sure there's nothing floating in there. And of course, if it doesn't look its normal color, if it's an off color, or if it's cloudy, that is a indication of some kind of contamination. All right, so we have that. We're warming our media up. So we're gonna go get the medium from the water bath, 37-degree water bath, and then we're gonna start the experiment. You can pause it. All right, so I'll go get that. Alright, so now we have it in this tube. First thing I want to do, of course, is look. I can show you better. You see that media is very clear. And then, okay, does this media have the FBS growth factors? Shake it up. And you see it set up, so that means that the FBS is present in this medium. Alright, so we're going to take it to the tissue culture hood. Once again, this is coming from the water bath. The water bath, it's just warm water in a container, so that is a high probability we could get contamination there. There are certain chemicals you can put in there that reduce contamination, but once again, we always wipe around here. This is where a lot of contamination can actually be at, or bacteria can grow under there. So we want to wipe that off, and we actually need a container to set that. You can pause it for a second. I'm gonna get a container. Perfect. Right here. So one of the key things to setting up a perfect experiment is to have a very clean and organized environment, and that's where I do my best work. When I have stuff all over the place is when I can't really execute the experiment like I want. So I have my container where I can hold my medium. A lot of times, because I'm going to be working, I'll screw this top off a little bit, not totally. And since this is a makeshift tissue culture hood, we want to be very careful with any kind of thing that might actually lead to contamination. So once again, since this is not a sterile hood, usually tissue culture hood is a metal surface because it's easy to wipe things down and wipe anything that spills off really well. Since we don't have that, we're gonna just wipe off the area again. We don't have to be so excessive and use so much of the ethanol, but for this case, we want to just make sure this is clean. All right, so we're going to remove those cells from the incubator. Take them out, set them down, and from there we need to remove or decant the medium that's already in there, because we're going to split these cells. Meaning split, we're going to use a reagent to remove the cells from the plate because they're attached to the bottom of the plate. And then once we neutralize that, after we incubate for 5 minutes, we're going to spin these cells down and put them on another plate, and they'll grow from there. So first thing I need to do is be able to remove the old medium, and this medium has a pH indicator. So what happens is this color for a reason. If the media starts to get like an orange color or very yellow, that means that the cells are starving and there's not enough nutrients. Either they're overgrown or they just need more nutrients to allow the cells to grow. So from here, this is the color for a reason, to show that if you have a more acidic environment which leads to overgrowth or lack of food, this medium is going to turn like a orange or a yellow color. And if it turns that color, then you need to split those cells and put them in a better environment so they can grow. Alright, so what we need to do now is we need this tube, and this tube is going to allow us to, we're going to attach it to...
Oh, that doesn't work.
Oh, we're not going to do this one?
No.
Okay. So how are we going to actually get the medium off? Just with a pipette?
Yeah.
Do you have the large pipettes, like 10 mil pipettes? Alright, so since we don't have the air, we're going to actually use a makeshift method here, and we're going to just decant with the pipette. So these plates hold, the maximum we hold in here is 10 mils. So what you want to do is be very careful, make sure you don't touch anything in there. And this plate has this lip on here, so you can actually hold it. We tilt it at a 45-degree angle. There's still cells, a lot of cells in there, I can see them. And then we remove this medium. And what you always want to do when you're dealing with tissue culture, you never want to go up into the pipette. That's where a lot of contamination resides. So you always want to stay below this red line. That's why it's there, because it tells you you need to not go past that line. Alright, so since we've already used this, we want to get as much of the medium off because it can affect the trypsinization process. This media actually neutralizes the trypsin, which is a reagent that allows those cells to remove themselves from the dish. Okay, so we have that. Always put this back like so. And what we're going to do here, I don't know if you want to zoom in, but I'm going to tilt this, and I don't know if you can see Avaron, but there's actually a lot of cells on here. It's not clear, it's like a film around there, so that indicates that the cells are still attached to the plate. Now what we want to do, we want to accomplish is once we put the trypsin on, that filmy or over the film that's over the plate, what we want to see is when we add the trypsin that those cells roll down, and we take them off and we spin them down and put them on another plate. So can you give me another? No, I got it. So I'm going to take another pipette. Cross-contamination is very, very essential. So we don't want to mix trypsin and the medium, because if we do that, we're going to neutralize this reagent. So alright, so we take it and hold that like that. We always want to screw this off. Once again, remove that. And that's why I said before, you want to have those tops like pre-screwed off. That way it's not difficult when you're trying to do the experiment. Alright, so we do 3 mils. Take 3 mils, we put it on the plate. We do a drop-wise fashion. Really doesn't matter because you just want the cells to come off of there. Alright, and then of course we take that. Don't ever set it like this, always set it like this. Some people have controversy about setting it like this because they believe things go into there, but you have a higher probability of contamination if you set it down this way. So what we do, set it face up, screw it on there. We're done with this trypsin. This needs to be out the way because this is going to be in the way of our experiment. Put this back, set these to the sides, get it away from your actually work field. Put this top back on. We're going to come back in 5 minutes. We're going to incubate this in this incubator for 5 minutes. It actually allows the reagent to work more efficiently when it's at 37 degrees. We close this. We'll time it for 5 minutes. We'll be back in 5 minutes and we'll continue the experiment.